Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. If you're on your way to bed listening to this, maybe you just want to lay there and listen. It's your girl, Unique Air, back once and again to discuss life principles. Okay? I'm your death doula. Now, but we know it ain't no death, right? It's life after life. That's why I say life principles will help you in this life, in the next life, in the next life, in the next. However many times you need to come back here. If you can't get your stuff right, then hey, you really need to be here on my channel. You really need to learn what it takes not to have to come back to this place, because we know that the earth is not only a school, but it's a prison planet. And all the evil elementals are here, okay? Right here on this seventh level of the astral plane. It's right here in the intermingling with us, y'all. It's right here intermingling with the third dimension. All right. So we're going to go back into the reading again of the astral body. We're going to be reading out of chapter 8. Last reading that I did, we talked about the effect of your physical life on your astral body, i.e., the foods you eat, drinking alcohol, doing drugs, not getting enough rest, just a lot of different things that you can do in your physical body that affects your spirit body, aka astral body, right? So this time we're going to go into the second leg of it about how your emotional body affects your spiritual body, aka astral body. That is the body that takes precedence when you're asleep at night. When your brain stem is automatically keeping your parasympathetic body going, your nervous system and all of that, and your heart is still beating, you're not thinking about it, but you off somewhere else in dream world, right? And so that is that astral body right there that you're in when you're in the dream state. So what you do emotionally on this physical level has an effect on your astral body, the way that you think. And I did the chapter on thought forms. Thoughts are things, and the two different types of thoughts there are. Let me refresh you. The first thought is the mental thought. That's a thought that has no feeling behind it. Say you lose your keys or something like that, and you like, damn, I need to find my key. That's a mental thought. You ain't got no feelings behind that. The second thought is the astral type of thought, because that thought is the one that you put in feeling behind, and it creates a whole form, and it has color and everything. This thing is deep, but only people can see it if they have spiritual sight, if they've trained that third eye, right? And we'll find later that the pituitary gland has a lot to do with the pineal gland, all right, and spiritual sight. So anyway, I'm going ahead of myself here. Again, it's your girl, Unique Air. Thank you for joining me. Also, let me just FYI, get your birth chart. Even for those of you who call yourself Christians, please, at my admonishment, get your birth chart. I'm going to tell you a tiny little story real quick. Growing up, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, was tongue speaking and all that good stuff. I was a soloist. I used to sing in the church. And every day when I was in high school, I would sit there in the cafeteria, and I would sneak and peek and look at my astrology for the day. And then I'd be like, oh God, Jesus, forgive me. I'm so sorry. I wasn't supposed to do it. I don't want to go to hell. Every day I was going through that. But every day I was noticing the stuff that I was reading was happening. I'm like, how could this be? This is not even personalized. It must be something to this. So as I grew and I got older and I got out of my mama's house and I started to do my own research and got out of that fear of I'm gonna go to hell if I get out of religion, when I cleared all of that off my table, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna check this out. Whatever's gonna happen, gonna happen. Well, I started to check it out, and you know what? It checked out. And when I asked for guidance, the Spirit came to me, because when the teacher is ready, the student will appear. Get rid of your fear. All religion does is give you feelings of fear, doubt, okay, and anger, disbelief. All right? Disbelief in yourself. Angry because you feel like you can't never get it right. Guilt. Guilt is another feeling. Fear, guilt, doubt. These three things, this is what religion breeds. And this is anti-Christ. It's anti-Christ. Fear, doubt, and guilt. This is anti-Christ. You know who the Christ is? The Christ is the collective. It's not one man. It's not. It's not one man that's going to bust the sky open and the whole world going to see him. You can't see a jumbo jet at 20,000 feet. Okay? Let's talk common sense here. This is common sense. This is what you need to understand. All right? There's a whole lot of principles that we haven't been given here in this country. We just haven't. We've been brainwashing and we wonder why the world is in the state it's in. But let me get off my soapbox. Just make sure you get your astral chart so you understand what you're here to do. So you understand your purpose. The astral chart, everyone has one. If you were born, you have one. It has 12 houses in the astral chart, and each house deals with a corresponding area of your life. Maybe your money, your friendships, your family, education, things like that. And each house has a lord over it. Yes, the planets are called lords. There's one over each house. And when these planets go retrograde or they make aspects or sextiles and stuff like that, that makes you. That shows you your purpose and what you're here for. Okay? So you need to get that. Get that, get that, get that, get that. That's the first thing you need to do. And then you need to understand spiritual principles, spiritual concepts, which I'm here to help with. All right? You need to understand that there's more to you than just this flesh. There's a whole lot more to you than that. You are somebody awesome. Jesse Jackson had it right when he said you are somebody, but you need to figure out who you are. All right? And it goes beyond race. It goes beyond white, black, and da-da-da-da-da. It goes beyond that. Because, see, we all spiritual beings having a human experience. This is death. What we call living every day, this is death. True life is when you get out of this old dirty body. That's when you're free. You can walk through walls and you can do all kinds of things, okay? So listen, get your birth chart. I'm telling you, you can thank me later. A lot of people are already on that. But if you ain't on that, get on that because you're behind. Remember, Earth is a school, all right? Let's get out of the one-on-one level. Get your birth chart. Go and if you don't know how to do a reading, go and see somebody who does them. Or sit down, get you an astrology book, look up your placements. You could do it right on YouTube. That's how I started out. I saw, okay, my son is in Cancer, right? You go look up sun in Cancer, second house, wherever it's at. And you got a lot of people on here that can give you an understanding of that placement, right? And then when it gets to the point where you very well acquainted with that, you can actually go and just get you a reading if that's what you want to do. Let somebody go see an astrologer, let them break it down to you. Find out what your purpose is so you don't have to be going in circles around here and keep coming back because you keep missing the mark. Because this is my last time coming back, and I want as many people that can get out of here and ain't got to come back to not come back. And let's move on now. Let's graduate because Earth is a hell realm as well as a school. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get to reading. So we're going to start on the emotional life, all right? Like I said, last time we did the physical, ain't no fluff over here. I did a couple of ones with music, and no, I like to get to the point. I am Aquarius moon. Saturn is in my 9th house. I don't mess around, okay? I like to get it done, get to it. All right, the emotional life. It's scarcely necessary to insist that the quality of the astral body is largely determined by the kind of feelings and emotions which constantly play through it. A man is using his astral body, whether he be conscious of the fact that he is or not. Whenever he expresses an emotion, just as he is using his mental body whenever he thinks of his physical body, whenever he performs physical work. I think I read that a little too fast. Let me go back. A man is using his astral body, whether he be conscious of the fact or not. Whenever he expresses an emotion, just as he is using his mental body, whenever he thinks or his physical body whenever he performs physical work. So whenever a man is expressing his emotions, he's using his astral body. All right. This, of course, is quite a different thing from utilizing the astral body as an independent vehicle through which his consciousness can be fully expressed, a matter which we shall have to consider later in due course. The astral body, as we have seen, is the field of manifestation of desire, aka karma, the mirror in which every feeling is instantly reflected, in which even every thought which has in it anything that touches the personal self must express itself through the astral body. From the material of the astral body, bodily form is given to the dark elementals, which men create and set in motion by evil wishes and malicious feelings. From it also are bodied forth the beneficent elementals called into life by good wishes, gratitude, and love. So, when I read in the chapter on thought forms, y'all, I was talking about how, say, you walk in a room, thought forms are powerful. You walk in a room and you're the only person that look like you. And you go into a room with a bunch of another ethnicity and they like, oh, you already know what time it is, right? You can feel it. Thought forms have feelings, they have colors, they have energy levels, right? So if you're sending forth good thought forms, then it's going to have a good feeling to it. If you're sending forth a negative thought form, well, you already know what that feel like, right? We all been there. The astral body grows by use, just as every other body does. And it also has its own habits, built up and fixed by constant repetition of similar acts. The astral body during physical life, being the recipient of and respondent to stimuli, both from the physical body and from the lower mental, it tends to repeat automatically vibrations to which it is accustomed. Just as the hand may repeat a familiar gesture, so may the astral body repeat a familiar feeling or thought. All the activities that we call evil, whether selfish thoughts, mental, or selfish emotions, astral, invariably show themselves as vibrations of the coarser matter of those planes, whilst good and unselfish thought or emotion sets in vibrations the higher types of matter. As finer matter is more easily moved than coarse, it follows that a given amount of force spent in good thought or feeling produces perhaps 100 times as much result as the same amount of the force sent out into coarser matter. If this were not so, it is obvious that the ordinary man could never make any progress at all. So, meaning positive thoughts have more power. Positive thoughts do go a longer way than the negative ones do. The effect of 10% of force directed to good ends enormously outweighs that of 90% devoted to selfish purposes. And so, on the whole, such a man makes an appreciable advance from life to life. A man who has even 1% of good makes a slight advance. A man whose account balances exactly so that he neither advances nor retrogresses must live a distinctly evil life. Whilst in order to go downwards in evil, a person must be an unusually consistent villain. Thus, even people who are doing nothing consciously towards their evolution and who let everything goes as it will are nevertheless gradually evolving because of the irresistible force of the Logos, which is steadily pressing them onwards. But they're moving so slowly that it will take them millions of years of incarnation and trouble and uselessness to gain even a step. So somebody who not even putting forth no effort to grow at all, eventually they're going to grow. But it's going to take a long time because they're not putting any concerted effort to do it. The method by which progress is made the method by which progress is made certain is simple and ingenious. As we have seen, Evil qualities are vibrations of the coarser matter of the respective planes, while good qualities are expressed through the higher grades of matter. From this follow two remarkable results. It must be borne in mind that each subplane of the astral body has a special relationship to the corresponding subplane of the mental body. Thus, the four lower astral subplanes correspond to the four kinds of matter in the mental body, while the three higher astral subplanes correspond to the three kinds of matter in the causal body. Hence, the lower astral vibrations can find no matter in the causal body capable of responding to them. And so the higher qualities alone can be built into the causal body. Thence it emerges that any good which a man develops in himself is permanently recorded by a change in his causal body, while the evil which he does, feels, or thinks can't possibly touch the real ego, but can cause disturbance and trouble only to the mental body, which is renewed for each fresh incarnation. So you got your astral body, your emotional body, your mental body, and your causal body. The causal body can only receive good, right? But the mental body can take in the negative too. That's why people are troubled by their thoughts. This is why in the Bible, you remember that scripture where there was I don't know if he was a king or what, but he was troubled and he needed somebody to play music to keep that evil, troubling spirit off of him. So yeah, mentally you could be real messed up by negative thoughts. All right. It says the result of evil is stored in the astral and mental permanent atoms. The man therefore has still to face it all over and over again until he has vanquished it and finally rooted it from his vehicles and all tendency to respond to it. That is evidently a very different matter from taking it into the ego and making it really a part of himself. Astral matter responds more rapidly than physical to every impulse from the world of mind, and consequently, the astral body of a man, being made of astral matter, shares this readiness to respond to the impact of thought, and thrills an answer to every thought that strikes it, whether the thoughts come from without, from the minds of other men, or from within, from the mind of its owners. An astral body, therefore, which was made by its owner to respond habitually to evil thoughts, acts as a magnet to similar thought and emotion forms in its vicinity, whereas a pure astral body acts on such thoughts with repulsive energy and attracts to itself thought and emotions of matter and vibrations congruous with its own. So basically, you're gonna be around what you like. Like attracts like. And they always talk about opposites attract. No, that's not the case. Like attracts like. So somebody who think evil, they're gonna take pleasure in hanging out with somebody who think evil like them. Right? And this is why, when they say, well, oh well, this is my friend of another lifestyle, of another persuasion. Now, I've had a friend that was of the LGBT community, but you know what? The friendship didn't last. I mean, we're still friends to this day. Like, we'll holler at each other every now and then on Facebook, like, hey, she has a wife, she's married to a woman. But as far as having that friendship, close proximity, it couldn't happen because we're not alike. You know what I'm saying? I love her as my sister, but I don't have the same interest. So we couldn't hang together, right? Like I said, like the book just said, like attracts like. So a person who's into wicked things, who's into stealing, lying, cheating, killing, doing things like that, they're going to take delight and pleasure in being around people who just like them. They don't want to be around nobody that want to read, that want to better themselves, that's out here trying to make money, or that's trying to, you know what I'm saying? That might have been not have been a good example, but they're going to want to be around somebody got the same low vibratory habits. And someone who's good or who wants to better themselves, they're going to want to be around somebody who wants to better themselves. That's just like attract likes. Hold on, let me get some juice here. I'm thirsty. Ooh, sorry, y'all. Okay, let's finish reading. For it must be borne in mind that the astral world is full of thoughts and emotions of other men, and that these exert a ceaseless pressure, constantly bombarding every astral body and setting up in it vibrations similar to their own. In addition, there are nature spirits of a lower order, which enjoy the coarse vibrations of anger and hatred and throw themselves into any current of such nature, thus intensifying the undulations and adding fresh life to them. So you got nature spirits. Nature spirits are the elementals I was telling y'all about earlier. And I just read about that. When you have negative thought forms, right? It gathers the corresponding astral matter around it, and it seeks to be around. Those thought forms take on a life of their own. They call nature spirits. And so somebody who like to argue and go off and do all of this, them spirits is around, honey. They around that person and they eating it up, and they just like, just sucking in all that negativity. They love it, right? So if you know somebody who's argumentative, you need to tell them, hey, stop doing that. And you need to not feed into it when they're acting that way. Peace above all things. You have nothing to prove. Don't feed the forces, because that's what's happening when people constantly do negative, low vibratory things. They're feeding the forces, and these beings become obsessed with that person and they get stuck in their auric field. And that's why you can be around some people who are so negative and they may think can't nobody see that they like that. But if you spiritually sensitive, you can feel it. And sometimes you can even see it. But you can definitely feel it. Like, I don't like that. I ain't feeling that person. I don't like being around them. Something about their energy. That's those negative forces. Okay. Oh, and let me just say this. I wanted to, because the reading I did last was about the physical, what you do in your physical body, how that affects your astral. So, when I was reading about the eating of the meat, and they were saying that if you eat too much meat, that can only it'll open you up to lower level influences in your dream state, right? Well, over the weekend, I have a testimony. Over the weekend, I had fish, I had chicken, I had a corned beef sandwich, and y'all, it's true. It's true. My dreams were off the chain after eating all that meat. I woke up that morning, I told my significant other, I'm like, I had dreams that they were so vivid though. The dreams were very vivid, but they were negative. It was negative. I won't even tell y'all. Oh my gosh. It's true. Try to lay off the meat. Please, by all means. Eat as the least amount of meat as possible, because it true story. Let me just say that. It affected my dream state, and I won't be eating meat like that again. But okay. It says, in addition, there are nature spirits of a low order which enjoy the coarse vibrations of anger and hatred. And remember, coarse just means lower level, low vibratory. And they throw themselves into any current of such nature. All that anger and hatred, the nature spirits be right there, thus intensifying the undulations and adding fresh life to them. People yielding themselves to coarse feelings or to low vibratory feelings can depend on being constantly surrounded by such carrion crows. They say carrion crows. Y'all know the birds, the detritus feeders that feed on dead animals, right? It says a person who yield themselves to anger and hatred. I don't care if it's for white people or for whatever. Y'all got to get out of that. Get out of that race thing. I had to learn that too. A lot of these teachers that say they come in to empower you and who you are also telling you to hate somebody else. Just because you love yourself don't mean you got to hate others. Just because you love yourself and your people does not mean you have to hate others. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience. We look different. We're from different ethnicities, and we all have our set of challenges that we have to overcome in this lifetime. All right. So I know with black folks, we feel like, oh, we special, we this, we the Egyptians, we the God. Right. We got something we gotta overcome, right? But white folks got stuff they gotta overcome too. They gotta overcome life being so good and having privileges that will they even have the audacity to grow, to go any higher spiritually? Because it's like they've arrived here. It's like a heaven for them and a hell for us. So they can also get stuck by things being too good. So they may not want to grow and change. But for us, things can be so bad that it's pushing us to grow. It's pushing us to look to the next life. It's pushing us to want to get ourselves together. But if you don't want to get yourself together, then you're going to go in the opposite direction and become worse, right? So everybody has their path. And it ain't even about color. All right? It's not about that at all, y'all. It's not about color. Mm-mm. So people yielding themselves to negative feelings can depend on being constantly surrounded by such carrion crows of the astral world who jostle one another in eager anticipation of an outburst of passion. So these negative forces, these evil forces are pushing each other. They looking for opportunity to be in the midst of some bullshit, to be there to feel all that negative energy. Do y'all remember growing up and when you were in school and there was a fight and people knew it was going to be a fight going on, and they couldn't wait till after school to see the fight, and they running and pushing each other so they can get in and see who hitting who and what? Y'all remember that? That's how these spirits do. When they see all that anger and that hatred, they want to be in the midst of it. Many of the moods to which most people are subject is in greater or lesser degree are due to outside astral influences. Y'all hear that? Many of the moods to which most people are subject in greater or lesser degree are due to outside astral influences. Wow. Whilst depression, for example, may be due to a purely physical cause, such as indigestion, a chill, fatigue, etc., even more frequently, it is caused by the presence of an astral entity who is himself depressed and is hovering around either in search of sympathy or in the hope of drawing from the subject the vitality which he lacks. Y'all hear that? Now, this sounds like a real person. People do it too. But astral entities also do it when a person's just depressed and they don't understand why, and it just gets worse and worse, and it's like, I don't know why I feel like that. It's a spirit. It's a troubling spirit. Furthermore, a man who, for example, is beside himself with rage temporarily loses hold of his astral body, the desire elemental becoming supreme. Under such circumstances, the man may be seized upon and obsessed either by a dead man of a similar nature or by some evil artificial elemental, which is a negative thought form. Okay? The student should sternly and especially disregard depression, which is a great barrier to progress, and at least should endeavor to let no one else know that he is oppressed by it. Don't tell nobody when you're feeling depressed. It indicates that he is thinking more of himself than of the master, and it makes it more difficult for the master's influence to act upon him. Depression causes much suffering to sensitive people and is responsible for much of the terror of children at night. The inner life of an aspirant ought not to be one of continual emotional oscillation. So if you are a person that's aspiring to grow, you're an aspirant, right? Your life shouldn't be in continual emotional oscillation. You going back and forth. One minute you happy, then you down, then you depressed, then you upset. No, there should be some consistency to your emotion because you should have an understanding of thought forms. Above all things, the aspirant should learn not to worry. Never worry. I don't even do that. Even in the state that the world is in today, with the elections and all that, I ain't worried. I mean, because what did Jesus say? What did Yeshua say in that book? He said, "Don't worry about him who is able to kill the body, but fear him who is able to put both mind and body in hell." And hell is a state of condition. It's not a lake of fire. It's a mindset. So you can put yourself in hell. So that's who you should be more concerned about is what you think, all right, and what you feel about something, not something outside of you. Okay, so it says, above all things, the aspirant should learn not to worry. Contentment is not incompatible with aspiration. See, so you could be content and still have aspirations. You could still aspire to learn and want to do more and be content. That don't mean that you are because if you're not content, then that leads to worry, right? Oh, I ain't content with. Oh, I gotta. No, be content. You can still aspire to do other things with contentment. Optimism is justified by the certainty of the ultimate triumph of good. Though it is true that if we take into account only the physical plane, it is not easy to maintain that position. Optimism is justified by the certainty of the ultimate triumph of good. We justify being optimistic because we think good is going to triumph, right? All right. Under the stress of very powerful emotions, if a man lets himself go too far, he may die, become insane, or be obsessed. Such obsessions need not necessarily be what we call evil, though the truth is that all obsession is injurious. An illustration of this phenomenon may be taken from conversation at a religious revival. On such occasions, some men get worked up into a condition of such tremendous emotional excitement that they swing beyond the degree of safety. They may then be obsessed by a departed preacher of the same religious persuasion, and thus two souls may temporarily work through one body. Yes, this is true. That is called obsession. Some people say possession. It's obsession. The tremendous energy of these hysterical excesses is contagious and may spread rapidly through a crowd. I remember growing up going to church and seeing people jumping and dancing and falling all over the damn place, and they fall and next to touch somebody else, and then they start acting crazy and running around. Obsession. An astral disturbance is set up of the nature of a gigantic whirlpool. Towards this pour astral entities whose one desire is for sensation. These are all kinds of nature spirits who delight in and bathe in the vibrations of wild excitement of whatever character, be it religious or sexual, just as children play in the surf. So when you go into the church and you seeing all this wild excitement and all of that, there's a lot of nature spirits in there. They like that wild excitement. They feed off of it. They supply and reinforce the energy so recklessly expended. The dominant idea being usually the selfish one of saving one's own soul. The astral matter is of a coarse kind, and the nature spirits are also of a primitive type. The emotional effect of a religious revival is thus very powerful. In some cases, a man may be genuinely and permanently benefited by his conversation, but the serious student of occultism should avoid such excesses of emotional excitement, which for many people are apt to be dangerous. Excitement is alien to spiritual life. Y'all hear that? Excitement is alien to spiritual life. That's something, because I don't have a lot of that over here. I don't have a lot of rah rah and listen this. Yeah, I played my son's music on a couple of my recordings, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not about to do that today. I'm just gonna read and get to the point, because excitement is alien, it's foreign to spirit life. It's smooth and consistent. So all this stuff that you seeing in them churches, all that organ play, that's summoning nature spirits. And then we wonder why in our communities it's so bad. We wonder why our people are so muffed up. Because they going down to that church house every Sunday and they getting possessed. They're getting obsessed with nature spirits, souls of the departed. Okay? And then they coming back home and running amok. The women going up, bucking up against their husbands. The preachers up there touching the little boys. The men out there running around with other women. The kids are disobedient. Everything that's in that book is what's coming out of there. All right. Says here, there are, of course, many causes of insanity. It may be due to defects in one or more of the vehicles, the physical, etheric, astral, or mental. Okay, so the cause of insanity could be due to defects in one or more of your bodies: your physical body, your etheric body, your astral body, or your mind. In one variety, it is caused by a want of accurate adjustment between the astral particles and the particles of either the etheric or the mental body. Such a case wouldn't recover sanity until he reached the heaven world. Wow. So if you got a misalignment between your astral body and the etheric or the mental body, that can't be fixed until you leave your body. Isn't that something? Let me read that again. In one variety, it is caused by a want or a lack of accurate adjustment between your astral body and the particles of the etheric or the mental body. In this case, a person can't recover sanity until they reach the heaven world. They just done lost their damn mind. And they can't get sanity. They can't get sane until they leave their body because they so misaligned. It's just like when you go to a chiropractor and you get your back aligned. You know how good that feels? Oh my gosh. I remember I had an accident years ago and I had to go to the chiropractor and get the treatments, for your lawsuit. And I never knew that you could be misaligned like that. And you don't know it until you actually get realigned. And then you're like, damn, I didn't even know I needed that. So you got some people walking around here all messed up mentally. They messed up and they don't even know they messed up. They just think it's normal for them to behave the way that they behave. And they won't know it until they're out of the body. Such a case wouldn't recover sanity until he reached the heaven world, until he had left his astral body and passed into his mental body. This type of insanity is rare. The effect of the astral body caused by astral vibrations of another astral body has long been recognized in the East and is one of the reasons why it is such an immense advantage to a pupil to live in close proximity to one more highly evolved than himself. And we know that. So we know in the physical realm, if you want to do better in life, you want to surround yourself with people who do better than you. You don't want to be hanging around and befriending people who are on a lower state than you are. It's like, why would I do that? You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that you're better than somebody, but it's just that if you want to do better, you want to be around people who are doing better, right? But if everybody feel like that, then if you thinking that you better than this person, so you should be around this person, but this person thinking they better than you, so they want to be around that person, how would anybody get any better? So we have to use discernment with that. But they saying in your astral form, in your spirit life, you want to be around those who are more evolved, right? In the spirit. I'm sorry, I'm so thirsty. In the spirit, you want to be around those who are more evolved. And that makes sense on the spiritual realm, right? Because being an aspirant trying to ascend, you need to be around people who are stronger than you spiritually so they can pull you up. So then you can pull up the next person so they can pull up the next person. You see what I'm saying? But in the physical realm, that's different. Because now the person who may be a little beneath you may need your strength a little bit to help pull them up. And the person that's over you, they may strengthen you. You see what I'm saying? Oh, my phone is ringing. Hold on. I got to pause, y'all. I'll come back. I'll come back. Okay. I am sorry about that. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I had an important call that I had to get. So let's just pick back up on this, all right? It says here the effect of the astral body caused by astral vibrations of another astral body has long been recognized in the East and is one of the reasons why it is such an immense advantage to a pupil to live in close proximity to one more highly evolved than himself. An Indian teacher not only may prescribe for his pupils special kinds of exercises or study in order to purify, strengthen, and develop the astral body, but also by keeping the pupil in his neighborhood physically seeks by this close association to harmonize and attune the pupil's vehicles to his own. Such a teacher has already calmed his own vehicles and accustomed them to vibrate at a few carefully selected rates instead of in 100 promiscuous frenzies. These few rates of vibration are very strong and steady, and day and night, whether he is sleeping or waking, they play unceasingly upon the vehicle of the pupil and gradually raise him to his teacher's key. Now, apparently, this is some Hindu stuff that goes on, like, you know, teaching people to be aspirants or to aspire to open kundalini energy and all of that. So that's what this is. For similar reasons, an Indian who wishes to live the higher life retires to the jungle, as a man of other races withdraws from the world and lives as a hermit. He thus has at least breathing space and rest from the endless conflict caused by the perpetual battering on his vehicles of other people's feelings and thoughts, and can find time to think coherently. The calm influence of nature are also, to a certain extent, helpful. Somewhat analogous are the effects produced on animals, which are closely associated with human beings. The devotion of an animal for the master whom he loves and his mental efforts to understand his master's wishes and to please him enormously develop the animal's intellect and his power of devotion and affection. But in addition to this, the constant play of the man's vehicles on those of the animal greatly assists the process and thus prepare the way for the animal to individualize and become a human entity. It is possible, by an effort of will, to make a shell of astral matter on the periphery of the astral aura. This may be done for three purposes. One, to keep our emotional vibrations, such as anger, envy, or hatred, intentionally directed at one by another. Two, to keep out causal vibrations of low type, which may be floating in the astral world and impinge upon one's aura. Three, to protect the astral body during meditation. Such shells don't usually last for long, but need to be frequently renewed if required for any length of time. Such a shell would, of course, keep vibrations in as well as out. The student should therefore make the shell only of the coarsest astral matter, as he will not wish to keep away or to prevent from passing outwards vibrations in the higher types of astral matter. Oh, I don't know how they wrote that. Some of the punctuations in these Middle Eastern books, geez, I tell you. Um, a good movie to watch to kind of explain the astral. Check out Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange. Um, that shows a lot with dealing with the astral plane. Okay, that's a good movie. It just came to mind. I wanted to share that. As a general principle, it may be said that to use a shell for oneself is to some extent a confession of weakness, as if one is all one should be. No artificial protection of this kind would be needed. On the other hand, shells may often be used with advantage to help other people who need protection. You know how it's that same thing that they talk about in the conscious community when they say picture a white light around you, a white light of protection. You know, they close your eyes and just imagine a white light around your body. That's the shell that this is talking about. All right. It will be recollected that a man's astral body consists not only of ordinary astral matter, but also of a quantity of elemental essence. During the man's life, this elemental essence is segregated from the ocean of similar matter sound matter around. What? During the man's life, this elemental essence is segregated from the ocean of similar matter around and practically becomes, for that time, what may be described as a kind of artificial elemental, a kind of semi intelligent separate entity known as the desire elemental. Why does she keep? The desire elemental follows the course of its own evolution downwards into matter without any reference to, or indeed any knowledge of, the convenience or intention of the ego to whom it happens to be attached. So the desire elemental, which is karma, doesn't care or know who it's attached to. It just knows that it's there, that it has its own life form. Its interests are thus diametrically opposed to those of the man. So the desire elemental is opposed to what's best for you. It's just like somebody got desires that's just killing them. The desire to keep doing drugs, the desire to touch children, the desire. These are karma. This is karma, desire. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about the betterment of you. It just wants what it wants. Its interests are thus diametrically opposed to those of the man, as it is seeking ever stronger and coarser vibrations to become stronger and more wicked. Think about Diddy. That'll give you an idea. Hence, the perpetual struggle described by St. Paul as the law and the members warring against the law of the mind. That's found in the Holy Bible when he says, when I should be strong, yet I'm weak, and all this kind of stuff, right? Furthermore, finding that association with the mental matter of the man's mind body brings to it more vivid vibrations, it endeavors to stir up the mental matter into sympathy with it and to induce the man to believe that he desires the the sensations which he desires. So it plays on your mind like, oh, well, it's okay, nobody's too young to love. In the case of a pedophile, right? He's got these desires. So then this ego is going to go and make him feel like he's going to justify it. But it's really okay. It's not really a bad thing when you really think about it, right? Consequently, it becomes a sort of tempter. Nevertheless, the desire elemental is not an evil entity. In fact, it isn't it's not it is not an evolving entity at all, having no power of reincarnation. It is only the essence of which it is composed by which is evolving. What? It is only the essence of which it is composed by which is evolving. Nor has this shadowy being any evil designs upon the man, for it knows nothing whatever of the man of whom for the time it forms a part. It is thus in no way a fiend to be regarded with horror, but is as much a part of the divine life as the man himself, though at a different stage of its unfoldment. I really wish they would just write this book normally, just normal. It is a mistake to imagine that by refusing to gratify the desire elemental with coarse vibrations, a man is thereby checking its evolution. But this is not the case. Okay, let me read that again. It's a mistake to imagine that by refusing to gratify the desire elemental with coarse vibrations, a man is thereby checking its evolution. So just because you don't do this, you ain't checking this thing. All right, the desire elemental is still going to be what it is, even if you don't indulge. But this is not the case. By controlling the passions and developing the higher qualities, a man drops the lower and helps to evolve the higher types of essence. The lower kinds of vibrations can be supplied by an animal at some time later, and even better than by a man. Whereas no one but a man can evolve the higher type of essence. So saying this elemental can jump to something else. It don't have to use you, it'll use something else. All through life, a man should definitely fight against the desire elemental and its tendency to seek for the lower, coarser physical vibrations, recognizing quite clearly that its consciousness, its likes and dislikes are not his own. He has himself created it and should not become a slave to it, but learn to control it and realize himself as apart from it. This matter will be further considered in chapter 12. So now we're going to go into the last part, which is the effect of the mental life on the astral body. This is the last part of it. This book is something of a read. I tell you, it's like some of the punctuation is not right, and so you're reading and you're like, what? Like, you have to kind of. It's not like American books. It's like heavily edited, but these books, the punctuation just be off sometimes. But okay, so now we go into what the mental body, the effect that the mental body has on the astral body. All right, the mental life, because we have 50 minutes in, and I don't want to really go over an hour and a half. Mental life. Our third and last factor, which affects the astral body during ordinary waking consciousness, is the mental life. The mental activities have the most far reaching effects on the astral body for two reasons. One, because lower mental matter, manas, which is the mind, is so inextricably linked with astral matter, kama, that's desire, that it is almost impossible for people to utilize one without the other. Few people can think without at the same time feeling, or feel without the same time to some extent thinking. Two, because the organization and control of the astral body rests with the mind. This is an example of the general principle that each body is built up by consciousness working in the plane next above it. Without the creative power of thought, the astral body cannot be organized. So the mind and the astral are like this. All right? Every impulse sent by the mind to the physical body has to pass through the astral body and produces an effect on it also. Further, as astral matter is far more responsive to thought vibrations than is physical, the effect of mental vibrations on it is proportionately greater than on the physical body. Consequently, a controlled, trained, and developed mind tends also to bring the astral body under control and to develop it, right? Mind control. Control your own mind. Don't allow nobody else to control it. When, however, the mind is not actively controlling the astral body, the latter, being peculiarly susceptible to the influence of passing thought currents, is perpetually receiving these stimuli from without and eagerly responding to them. So if you ain't controlling your own mind, guess what? Somebody else doing it. And that's why we got to go into the reading of what's the book? The Seven Hermetic Principles, the Kabbalion, about the feminine mind and the masculine mind. If you have a feminine mind, anybody can push their ideas in your head, okay? Because women are receivers. Anybody can push into your feminine mind their ideas. If you have a masculine mind, you're more of a thinker, all right? This is one of the like I said, one of the seven hermetic principles of the Kabbalion. I've been reading so much, I got so much up in my head. And I'm going to read that book sometime soon. But understand that. You should get the Kabbalion and understand the principle of mind, the gender of mind. All right? So far, we have dealt with the general effects produced on the astral body during ordinary life by the nature of the physical, emotional, and mental life. We have now to deal, but in general outline only, with the use of the special faculties of the astral body itself during the waking consciousness. The nature of these faculties and their connection with the various chakrams in the astral body we've already described in chapter 5, and I read that. Go back to the channel and listen to that one. By means of the powers of astral matter itself developed through the agency of the chakrams, a man is enabled not only to receive vibrations from etheric matter transmitted through the astral body to his mind, but also to receive impressions direct from the surrounding matter of the astral world. These, of course, being also similarly transmitted through the mental body to the real man within. But in order to receive impressions in this manner direct from the astral world, the man must learn to focus his consciousness in his astral body instead of, as is usually the case, in his physical brain. In the lower types of men, kama, or desire, is still emphatically the most prominent feature though the mental development has also proceeded to some extent. The consciousness of such men is centered in the lower part of the astral body, their life being governed by sensations connected with the physical plane. So most men are physical. All they thinking about what feel good to their body. Okay, they don't know how to focus and center on the astral body, which is the spirit self. They center on where they feel pleasure at. That's your common person. Okay, that is the reason why the astral body forms the most prominent part of the aura in the undeveloped man. It forms its most prominent part down here because that's where they think, that's where they function. Okay, it can be for women too. The ordinary average man, because when we talk about man, we talking about man and woman. We're just womb man. There's man and then there's womb man. Okay. The ordinary average man is also still living almost entirely in his sensations, although the higher astral is coming into play. But still, for him, the prominent question which guides his conduct is not what is right or reasonable to do, but simply what he himself desires to do. And I was a slave to that in my former life. And I say former because I don't live like that anymore. You become a slave to your, oh, I want that. Oh, I like him. Oh, I want, oh, you getting up and you eating and you ain't hungry. It's so many ways to feed your desires. You know what I'm saying? And so that is what the average man does. They feed their desires. They don't focus on the spirit, right? Says here, the more cultured and developed are beginning to govern desire by reason. That's us. That is to say, the center of consciousness is gradually transferring itself from the higher astral to the lower mental. Because remember, the mental body is next up from the astral. So you're going from the higher astral to the lower mental planes. And when you get out of your body, you don't stay on the astral realm forever. Once you get sieved through all the different levels and you don't match any of those desires, then you go higher up and you don't have to come back here. Slowly, as the man progresses, it moves up further still, and the man begins to be dominated by principle rather than by interest and desire. That is a person who's living on the mental. Now, it's not, oh, well, you live once, YOLO, I want to do this. I'm finna go do that. I'm finna creep over here. I'm finna do that. You stop doing that because you realize, you know what? I'm going to live off principle. I'm not living by what I'm interested in or what I desire. I'm not living according to karma, which is desire. I'm going to live off principle. Now, what people agree to do between them, then you're not just living off desire. If you, and say you and your mate decide, hey, we want to open up our situation, say like that Jada Pinkett and Will Smith stuff, some people desire to do that. And if that's what they desire together, and they say, this is okay, we want to do it, ain't no hard feeling, then that's fine. But when you're just doing something to be doing it, on somebody that you're with, or desiring to eat so much that it's messing up your health, gluttonous, or you working out way too much when you don't need to. Like I said, desire comes in all forms, shapes, and fashions. It's not just of a sexual nature. All right. You learn to live off principle. Like they say, you're supposed to eat to live, not live to eat. Right? On that. The student will recollect that humanity is still in the fourth round, which should naturally be devoted to the development of desire and emotion. Yet, we are engaged in the unfolding of intellect, which is to be the special characteristic of the fifth round. That this is so is due to the immense stimulus given to our evolution by the descent of the lords of the flame from Venus, and by the work of the adepts who have preserved for us the influence and steadily sacrificed themselves in order that we might make better progress. In spite of the fact that, in the vast majority of cases, the center of consciousness is located in the astral body, most men are quite unaware of the fact, knowing nothing at all about the astral body or its uses. Ask the common person about that. They don't know nothing about that. They don't. Most of the common person think when they die, they just dead. They land that they spirit somewhere and their body just in the ground, or either they think they all in the ground and they just stop living. Most people don't know that. Says here, they have behind them the traditions and customs of a long series of lives in which the astral faculties have not been used. Yet all the time, those faculties have been gradually and slowly growing inside a shell, somewhat as a chick grows inside the egg. Hence, a very large number of people have astral faculties of which they are entirely unconscious. In reality, very near the surface, so to speak, and it is probable that in the near future, as these matters become more widely known and understood in great numbers of cases, these latent faculties will break through. Latent faculties will break through, and astral powers will then become far more common than they are today. And this is what we're trying to birth in right now. This is what we're trying to birth in right now. Living in spirit. It's a whole different ball game than what they tell you in church, ain't it? It's a whole different ball game than what they tell you in religion. Tell me, oh, the spirit. Nah, ain't no spirit. I don't know what spirit talking to you. That's some dark elemental that you dealing with. But truly, spirit living is whole. It's a different ball game. The shell spoken of above is composed of a great mass of self-centered thought in which the ordinary man is almost hopelessly entombed. This applies also, perhaps with even greater force, to the sleep life, with which we shall deal in the next chapter. We spoke above of focusing the consciousness in the astral body. The consciousness of man can be focused in only one vehicle at a time, though he may be simultaneously conscious through the others in a vague way. A simple analogy may be taken from the ordinary physical sight. If the finger be held up before the face, the eyes can be so focused as to see the finger perfectly. At the same time, the distant background can also be seen. So hold your finger up and look at it. And you focusing on your finger, but the background is a little blurry to you because you're focusing on your finger, right? Now take your focus and look at the background and don't look at your finger. So you can focus on one thing at a time, right? This gives you a prime example. If the finger be held up before the face, the eyes can be so focused as to see the finger perfectly. At the same time, the distant background can also be seen, though imperfectly, because it is out of focus. In a moment, the focus can be changed so that the background is seen perfectly, but the finger now out of focus only dimly and vaguely. Precisely in the same way, if a man who has developed astral and mental consciousness focuses himself in the physical brain as in ordinary life, he will see perfectly the physical bodies of people. And at the same time, he will see their astral and mental bodies, but only somewhat dimly. And I've done that. What I do in order to see an astral body, I look straight at the forehead of a person and I just take a real deep breath and just stare at them, stare at their head, and you'll start seeing a faint color around here. You'll start seeing it. It outlines the body perfectly. You'll see the color and you'll see what you're dealing with if you understand the colors. And I read the chapter with the colors in it and what it means. Okay. It says here, in far less than a moment, he can change the focus of his consciousness so that he sees the astral fully and perfectly. But in that case, he will see the mental and physical bodies also, but not in full detail. The same thing is true of the mental sight and of the sight of higher planes. Thus, in the case of a highly developed man whose consciousness is already developed even beyond the higher mental body, so that he is able to function freely on the Buddhic plane and has also a measure of consciousness upon the Atmic plane. The center of consciousness lies between the higher mental and the Buddhic plane. The higher mental and the higher astral are in him much more developed than their lower parts, and though he still retains his physical body, he holds it merely for the convenience of working in it, and not in any way because his thoughts and desires are fixed there. You know how free the man is that has no desires? The man, and I mean woman too, that has no desires for sex, that has no desires to have all this money. Like with my channel, if I make money, that's good eventually. But my whole point is just to get out what I need to get out. I'm being obedient to what Spirit has told me to share, to help people to develop in this life and the next, right? So the man who has no desires, that is a free man. That is a free man. Such a man has transcended all desires or karma, which could bind him to incarnation. See, you don't want to come back here? Have no desires. Detach, disconnect. Buddha said suffering is caused by attachment. Detach from having to get a bag. I mean, yeah, you got to live. Sure, you do. But you know what? The way that this planet is raising in vibration and we now in the Aquarius age, people ain't going to be able to do things like they used to do. You know, the way that the world is going, you're going to have to detach. Some people are being made homeless. Some people are being made jobless. Some people are losing families. You know what I'm saying? Because once we understand that it's life after life and that there is no death, then you can easily detach from the physical. And then when you understand that what's on the other side is greater, better than what's on this side, then you're not afraid of death. You're not afraid to pass out. You're not afraid to transition. When you realize that there is no devil that's standing there with a pitchfork ready to burn you eternally, then you understand that God, or the source, is gentle with the creation. You burn out your desires and you move on and you graduate. It's just like the physical plane. You go from kindergarten, you go from preschool to kindergarten to junior high to high school. You graduate. And in each of them areas, you make mistakes and you do wrong, but you learn to do right. And when you get it right, you graduate. It's the same thing in the spirit realm. There is no, oh, you're going to bust hell wide open. Oh, you're going to burn. No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't believe that. It doesn't exist. Remember, I told you what religion breeds is fear, guilt. What is it? Fear, guilt, and doubt. Fear, guilt, anger, all these negative, lower vibratory emotions. You know a tree by its fruit, and you know what a religious book is about when you watch what the adherents to that book do. So you look at the world, this Christian world, it's a mess. It's a mess. So you know the book ain't about nothing. It's got some good, historical stuff in there. It's got some good wise sayings in there, but what are the spirit forces behind that book? Because you can get good out of anything. Doesn't mean it's right. Such a man has transcended all karma, which could bind him to incarnation, and his physical body is therefore retained in order that it may serve as an instrument for the forces of the higher planes to reach down even to the physical plane. So that would be like your people, like they say they holy, but the next one is going to be about sleep life. We're going to talk about sleep life in your dreams. That's the next one I'm going to read about. But get rid of your desires. That's what I can say most of all. So we dealt with the effect that the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body has on your astral body, right? So what you eat matters, what you drink matters, what you think matters, what you feel matters. All those things matter to your spirit body. All those things matter to your spirit body, aka astral body. All things may be lawful, but all things are not expedient. I think I'm going to get a shirt with that on there. Just because it's lawful don't mean it's expedient. Just like as they say you can drink alcohol, you can go to the store and buy, don't mean it's expedient. Don't mean you should do it, because you're doing damage on a level that you can't even see. You see? So with that being said, y'all, I hope I delivered like I should have. I hope y'all got an understanding. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, pass this information on. I'm hearing all kinds of noises in this house. I'm here by myself. Don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe. I'm repeating myself, but I was like, I'm just excited. I'm excited that, I can share this information, and y'all, it gets so deep. This book get real deep. Please hang in there with me and finish getting these readings, because you want to understand this other side. Meditate on it. You know what I like to do at night? I lay down. If it's just a particular vlogger I like to listen to, I lay down and listen to it. I don't have to watch it. I just listen to what they're saying. I let it get in my spirit, and I grow. I grow each day. We grow just like plants. We grow like flowers. You know what I'm saying? I read in the book in the earlier chapter about when somebody is so spiritually developed, their astral body can reach out 3 feet. You could feel them way before you see them. That's called growth. The physical body ain't gonna get that big, but your astral body will. And y'all, we need to learn to be able to get up out of these bodies on demand. That's why I say watch Doctor Strange, how he was getting out of his body and stuff. We need to learn to do that, especially for the time that's coming. You know, before things get much better, we're going to have, things got to get worse, order out of chaos. And you want to be able to just wheel yourself right out your body. I've done it before, and I slipped out. I didn't even try to get out. I didn't know how to do it. I just slipped out, and when I slipped out is when the man came to visit me. So it wasn't so much that this is just, oh, it's so deep. When I think about it, it gives me chills, y'all. Spirits be all around us. We just don't see them because they under chains of darkness that the Holy Bible talks about. The chain of darkness means this eye got to be open for you to see them. It ain't with the physical. All right. So when people have astral projections and they get out of the body, they just seeing what's already there. You just can't see it. You may feel it. You may feel a chill, but you know who can't see it? The psychic mediums, the clairvoyants, they can see it, but the average person cannot. So we want to get to the point where we develop ourselves where we can see these beings, and there's no need to fear. Because remember, when you fear, you draw negative astral entities to yourself. And that's what religion teaches you, to fear. To fear God is to love him. No, you don't need to have no fear. Love is enough. Love is enough. If something wants you to fear, that means it wants to control you. That's not love. We know that in day-to-day relationships. If something wants to control you, it wants you to be afraid of it. So with that being said, I'm going to end this taping, and tomorrow I will be talking about sleep life on the next reading. Thank you guys for joining me. Your girl, Unique Air, once and again, your Deb Doula, talking about life principles that will help you life after life after life. Because remember, once again, and like I always say, there is no death. We live eternally. Have a good one. Peace out.